and good evening. Welcome to the Wakefield School Committee meeting of Tuesday, November 26th. We have called the meeting to order, and we'll begin this meeting like we do every meeting with our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3, we'll read our mission statement. The vision of the Wakefield Public Schools is to graduate students who are confident lifelong learners, who are respectful and caring members of their community. Our mission is to prepare students for college, career, and community by providing a rich and challenging curriculum, high-quality instruction, and educational experiences that meet their individual needs and interests. At this point, we'd ask if there was any public comment, either in studio or over Zoom. Seeing none in studio. Is there anyone with us virtually? Seeing none. Okay, we'll move on. Before we get to our superintendent's remarks, I was wondering if our youth advisor would like to give us an update on the state of the schools.
Yes. Hi, I'm All. I'm a junior in high school. For our academic updates, we have the second opportunity for teacher conferences on Friday, December 6th from 12 to 2. For visual and performing arts updates, Wakefield Memorial High School Music Department had 16 students elected for the Northeastern District Music Festival that will take place at Lexington High School in January. 6 of these students had scores that qualified them to audition for the All-State Music Festival. And for other school news, our pep rally is scheduled for tomorrow that everyone's really excited about.
Great. Any questions for our youth advisor? No? Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And I would turn it over to Dr. Lyons, superintendent.
Thank you so much. With the permission of the chair, I'd like to take my items out of order.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to welcome Ann Herzog, representing the CPAC, to come up and share a little bit about what she's been doing with the CPAC.
So thanks everybody for inviting me and for the welcome. It's a pleasure always to be with all of you. And as many of you know, along with Chrissy Loftus, I am the parent volunteer co-chair of the Wakefield CPAC, and we also are so grateful to have Chris Martone-Levine, Carol Lombardi, and Marie Ray continue to work with us and support us. And we truly do appreciate the collaboration between the school committee, the district, and the CPAC. And thank you, Eileen, for being our liaison and being always the champion for special education. We really appreciate the time you've put in again this year. I wanted to start this year talking a little bit about myself and my family, because so many people often make the assumption that I work for the district or I work for Doug. So I just wanted to clarify that. I am a parent volunteer in this role. I do have a professional life. I've been a certified child life specialist at Newton Wellesley Hospital for 30 years. And I'm also on the teaching faculty at Boston University's Wheelock College of Education and Human Development. And I've been teaching there for the last 20 years. But I'm also a mom to 4 amazing young people. My oldest, Caroline, graduated from Wakefield Memorial High in the class of 2019. She received both her bachelor's degree and her master's degree in engineering from Cornell University, and now works as an engineer. And I will share with you that she often still comments on how well prepared she was for college because of her amazing teachers throughout the district and at Wakefield Memorial High School. Our second child, Diana, is a junior at Boston College, and she has a goal of being an art teacher, thanks to many of her mentors also at the high school. And we have 2 current students at the high school, Michaela and William, who are busy working hard, keeping busy with a number of different activities, such as soccer, field hockey, tennis, Voices of Steel, and theater arts. And our hope is that the students will be in a new Wakefield High School for our 14th and final year being parents of a high schooler. So, now about the CPAC. The Parent Advisory Councils are required by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, or DESE, as outlined in Massachusetts Special Education Law, Chapter 71B. And we have our own bylaws for the Wakefield CPAC, and our purpose that we've come up with is to promote awareness of special education services, to be a source of information and support for families in Wakefield whose children receive special education services, and to work with the district regarding meeting the needs of these students. Our Director of Special Education, Rosie Galvin, recently shared with us that about currently 18% of students from Wakefield have an IEP. It's obviously a fluid number because as children are identified as having a disability, an individualized education program is put in place and created for them. But this number definitely shows how the CPAC can potentially serve and support many families in our district. Family engagement has also been identified as a priority of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Education, and the state of Massachusetts. And as a CPAC, we value and encourage the positive outcomes that have been found with effective family engagement. I also want to talk for a minute about the experience of parenting a child or children with disabilities. And I think first it's helpful to have an understanding of what that means. So an individual with a disability is defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act as a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, a person who has a history or record of such an impairment, or a person who is perceived by others as having such an impairment. And the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, is a law that makes a free and appropriate public education available to eligible children with disabilities throughout the nation and ensures special education and related services to those children. So that's a little bit of our history and explanation about the world of special education. And this law states, disability is a natural part of the human experience and in no way diminishes the right of individuals to participate in or contribute to society. Improving educational results for children with disabilities is an essential element of our national policy of ensuring equality of opportunity, full participation, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency for individuals with disabilities. One thing I have learned is that every family's journey to special education is different and unique. Some families learn that their child has a disability at birth or even prenatally. Some families learn that their child has a disability later on in the parenting path, and some families have both experiences as their child might have different areas of disability. But regardless of when you learn about that disability or get a diagnosis, it can be a life-changing moment. It can be shocking, overwhelming, frightening, and lonely. And there are many questions that arise when you get that information and you learn about that. Questions like, how can I help my child? What will the future look like for them? Where can I go for help? And as a CPAC, we take those questions to heart, and we truly want to be there to provide support for exactly those worries and concerns that families might have. And we also have walked this path ourselves, so it's a model of family-to-family support. Parenting a child with a disability can also be an incredibly rewarding and wonderful experience as you see them make progress and flourish. You learn to truly appreciate and celebrate what we label ordinary miracles, maybe a first smile, a first step taken, a first sentence spoken, a new friendship, a first book read. Even though these milestones might happen at a much later stage than typically developing children. You gain the gift of perspective, taking nothing for granted, and cheering your child on through each goal they accomplish, whether big or small. And you get to see your child face the world with unbelievable strength, grace, resilience, and courage. What's amazing for us as a CPAC to see and experience are the relationships that develop and blossom between families. There's nothing quite as special as that connection between families of children who have similar challenges. They simply understand each other. They get it without lengthy explanations, without question, without judgment. And to be truly understood and supported in that space is incredibly powerful. We are so fortunate in Wakefield to have wonderful staff and teachers and administrators who support our children receiving special education services. And through our annual CPAC Superheroes program, we give families an opportunity to recognize the dozens of teachers and staff of the Wakefield Public Schools who take that extra step to make sure our children achieve their goals, all the while cheering them on. and we heard the mission statement earlier, and that aligns with what we believe most families want for their children, that they grow up to be confident, lifelong learners who are respectful and caring members of the community. And we truly appreciate the ongoing collaboration with Rosie Galvin, the teachers, administration, school staff, and families in the district. Some highlights from last year. It's been just about a year since I came to report out on our CPAC activities. We had an amazing presentation by Dr. Nadine Gabb from Mass General, who spoke on the science of dyslexia. We had Dr. Peter Gray from Boston College, who spoke on the importance of play. And we had the Federation for Children with Special Needs, who presented on basic rights, understanding the IEP. And Rosie Galvin also presented to our families on working collaboratively with the district and on the new IEP format. We had more than 65 nominations from families for CPAC Superheroes, honoring those in the staff who went above and beyond. Our goal this year is to continue to be a source of information and support for all families of children with disabilities and those who require special education. And we have a number of plans for this year. On October 23rd, we had a very successful and an excellent program on stress and anxiety by Elise Wolf from the Mass General Hospital Aspire program that was very well received by our families. And then on November 13th, we held our annual CPAC business meeting, and we welcomed Special Education Director Rosie Galvin again for a special education community call, and we received really strong positive feedback about that call. It was very informative and also provided families with a little bit of that connection that I talked about, of meeting other families, even though it was a virtual event, connecting and hearing other family stories. So we have another call planned for March. And then in January 2025, we have a workshop on understanding the IEP presented by the Federation for Children with Special Needs. This will be very important as the state and the district roll out the new IEP format this year. We are planning a collaboration with Wakefield parent and dance studio owner Sharon Wyatt from Catch the Funk. She has offered to host an inclusive event for children at her studio sometime in 2025. And we plan again to run the CPAC Superhero nominations. We also are in constant contact with other local CPACs to share opportunities that they might have with our families and benchmark what we're doing as a district and things like that. So that's another role that we have. An important CPAC role is to serve as a voice for families in the district of children with disabilities, and I did want to raise some of the issues that we have heard from families so far this year. We've received concerns related to a lack of communication and informing families about changes to their school day and incidents that their child may have experienced at school. And I've talked to many of you in the past about communication being a really important issue, and that theme kind of continues. So we do urge the district to communicate with all families and caregivers effectively and collaboratively. I think that's a constant goal for us. We also continue to hear concerns about the impacts that children with disabilities face with the implementation of all or nothing policies, such as universally locking cell phones at the Galvin Middle School. And I think it's important for us to remember that the Department of Education has issued guidance detailing schools' obligations to consider the assistive technology needs of each child with a disability. There's often confusion between giving a child a phone and giving a child access to social media, but they're two different things. And I think we need to be aware that devices are often a really important accommodation for children with disabilities, and that's a perspective that not everyone with typically developing children have. So I wanted to make sure that that voice is heard here in this forum. There is some developing literature that I've come across, and other families have pointed out to us that a universal locked cell phone policy can be viewed as ableist, as many children with disabilities use their cell phones as life-saving medical devices, as tools for self-regulation and calming, or for life-changing communication devices. And an additional kind of unspoken concern is that if a student with a disability has that as an accommodation to use their device, but there is a universal ban in the institution, that student with a disability may feel ashamed, singled out, or reluctant to use their device, which sort of defeats the whole purpose of that accommodation, helping them to be more successful. So these are just some issues that I think it's important for us all to be aware of. Another issue that we've recently been getting questions about from families is families are very concerned about the new presidential administration and the proposal to eliminate the Federal Department of Education and all of the protections it provides for children with disabilities. I know I've raised that to Doug, and we'll be carefully watching any changes, as I know you will be as well. Another issue that we recently became aware of, and some of you may have seen this series 2 in the Boston Globe, there was a recent series spotlighting special education settlements called The Great Divide, which looked at equality in education. And Wakefield was one of the districts highlighted, and recent settlement agreements were included in the story with personal information redacted. And what was concerning to us as a CPAC was the language in Wakefield settlement agreements. To quote the language in the Wakefield agreements, the parents and their representatives shall not disseminate any information about the terms of this agreement via the internet, PAC sites, blogs, social media sites, including Facebook, or to the CPAC in any form or forum. And I'm just going to quote from the article now because I think they said this, the point that I'm trying to make, better than I could say it. Those records that were made available are telling. The dollar amounts granted varied hugely, and many of the settlements reviewed for this investigation included specific provisions prohibiting parents from sharing information about the terms of their deals on social media or with special education parent advisory councils. Such clauses run counter to the spirit of federal special education law, which envisioned families being resources for each other. Pam Norris, Executive Director of the Federation for Children with Special Needs, said, "If you are preventing families from learning from each other, what you're saying is that the only way for families to figure this out is using paid professionals, attorneys, and advocates, which is putting up an enormous barrier for many families." And we agree with these statements from Ms. Norris. For that language to actively prohibit families from communicating with the CPAC goes against our purpose of being able to provide that family-to-family support that I mentioned earlier that is so crucial to families coping. And we do urge you to look at this language and reconsider using it. It is our CPAC leadership perspective that although there is strong work being done to ensure that accessibility and inclusion are part of the daily fabric of Wakefield Public Schools, there's always more work to be done. I have a dear colleague and friend who is a health and wellness educator at the Boston Children's Museum, and she has written a great article about the world of disability, and I want to quote from her because, again, I think she says this really nicely. The notion of disability is not just coming from the individual, it's coming from the environment that's created for the majorities. In other words, the environment is disabling certain people with differences. If we are willing to think more creatively and inclusively, the preconceived notion of a disability, meaning a person who cannot perform certain tasks, will no longer be true. Rather, it will be a disability as a person who approaches tasks differently. Yes, it's difficult to be perfectly inclusive for everyone. One accommodation or design that works for someone may pose a greater barrier for others, but it doesn't mean that we stop taking the perspective of the one person whose day-to-day experiences can be improved by inclusive practice. How would it feel if every time you went somewhere, you experienced difficulties just to get through what might seem to be an easy task to the majority of other people? Perspective taking is an important part of the social emotional skills that we teach children, and we as an organization should be taking the perspectives of different people that come to us. So I thought Saki really has a great perspective on what we strive to be as a completely inclusive community, and I know we all value that as well. We encourage families to reach out to us on the CPAC. We would love to have more parents engaged with us and helping us out. Feel free to reach out to us at wakefieldcpac@gmail.com with any questions or to learn more about our events. We also have a Facebook page, and I know there's been a lot of strong work on the Wakefield Public Schools website, and that includes a special education section where our events and other information about the CPAC is also available. So please, I encourage everyone to check us out there. And I just wanted to say again, I thank you all for your collaboration. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be part of the CPAC board again this year. Rosie has been great to work with. She makes time for us every month. I don't know if everybody knows this either. Every month to meet with the CPAC leadership so we can go over any issues that we're hearing about. We can inform Rosie about plans and what she's hearing, program changes, things like that. And I think that's super important for us all to continue to try and make this the most inclusive community that we can. So thank you for having me tonight and all of your collaboration.
Thank you. And does anyone have any questions? Kevin?
Yeah, I read that expose too in the Boston Globe, and I thought when I read it that was one of the biggest. I felt like I was watching Spotlight, like that movie. That it was like that was a huge. I don't remember reading an article in the Globe like where I had that much of a response. Like almost like this was a story that like no one really knows about.
Yeah.
And the thing that shocked me, and you kind of touched on this, what shocked me most was the idea that rich districts, affluent districts, were able to pay for these people. They're able to pay for advocates. They're able to pay for like lawyers, and you just have this ridiculous discrepancy of outcomes based on the socioeconomic nature of the town or the city. And I think I had the stats about Boston, and it was I mean, it's pretty disgusting when you look at it. I thought it was really. Yeah, so I would recommend that everyone read it. Just look up Boston
really
Globe Great Divide. It was an amazing.
I'll pay for your $1 to read it.
What?
I'll pay for everyone's $1 or $5 to read it,
Okay.
but however much it costs.
Yeah, and it's
Boston
been
Globe.
there's been several kind of
Yeah.
follow-ups to it too. I'm
Yeah,
not sure how much
no.
longer it's going on, but
Yeah.
really interesting.
So yeah, thank you for bringing that up because I think NDAs or non-disclosure agreements, like even with sexual harassment lawsuits, over the last 10 years, I think that those have become like people realize that these things are being used to silence people, like right, they're being used to silence, and whatever violation has occurred, it is meant as a financial deal to settle, and I think that the article does hint, does basically state that this leads to injustice for a lot of families. My second question was. The new IEP form, it sounds great that the district is educating, like that you said twice, I think, that there's outreach for the IEP form. How's that gone? Because I know as a teacher, it's like very different than the old form. So I was just curious from a parent's perspective.
Yeah, we haven't heard a lot from parents yet about it. They've been grateful for Rosie being proactive with the information. I don't know if you've gone on the website, but she's just got some great resources for parents. She's done a really nice job pulling it all together.
Yeah.
And she describes it very positively for parents. That she almost says like it's like almost arranged like a graphic organizer, which makes it easier for families to understand and families and teachers and staff to collaborate better. So I think she's done a really good job of being proactive. So we haven't heard a lot of feedback so far. I'm sure we will as it continues to roll out. I haven't had personal experience with it yet, but I'll give you my feedback too when I do.
And if I can just jump in, Rosie also has coordinated a consultant to come in to work with the teachers on so she's on the parent forums or outreach, and then it's Kelly Mertens is an IEP consultant that she has coming in on the 5 half days to teach. She's excellent. Yeah, everybody did a rocks there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's gone well. I just popped into one.
Yeah, in my district, we've been asking for that.
Yeah,
like,
so
because
we've
it's
gotten
such
really
a
good
different
feedback.
form that a lot of teachers have been
I
asking.
want to say I think she provided, I could be wrong, I'll double check with Rosie, but I think she also provided a resource with the PD, like a reference for teachers as well. So I think it's been, it's obviously overwhelming, it's new. It takes a while to get in the flow, and it's going to take everyone time. But
yeah, we've been in the district since 2006 with the same IEP, so that's a long time with the same document.
You start to know it inside and out.
Yeah.
And the recording for the parents is available. That was sent out as well. So if parents didn't catch it, there is a recording. available.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's posted on the website yet, but I'll mention it.
I
to
know
you
it
as
went
well.
out
Yeah, she emailed.
emails,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Dr. Lyons?
And could you share for the committee or anyone that may be watching at home how the collaborative work between the CPAC and the district has changed in the last few years?
Yeah, it's been great to have the opportunity to collaborate, and just what I was saying tonight, certain issues come up and we can go right to Rosie and say, hey, this issue has come up, is this something that you're hearing too? And Rosie, often before we even have a chance to raise that issue, has already been problem solving that issue. And I think, Doug, your community calls too have also been a really welcome forum. One of the things we find with the CPAC is that we don't like to think about in 2024 that stigma still exists around special education, mental health, things like that. But we're finding that people are hesitant to talk about special education, to identify as a family who receives special education services. So the more of a presence that we have in the district, the better, I think, for everyone. 18% of our families, or 18% of our kids have IEPs. So the more we can get the word out, and we appreciate the district giving us that forum, and even, Carrie, involving us with Parent University. And so we can work together to come up with a program that meets a wide variety of needs. Not just of our typically developing students, but all of our students. And I think that's a huge part of being more inclusive. So we do appreciate that collaboration for sure. Did I miss anything?
No, I think, not a question, but I think a statement just to follow up on your comments. I think going back into your comments about, when parents learn that their child has a disability, they can feel really alone and really isolated in trying to make meaning of that situation.
Yes.
And they learn at different times in the development of their children. Sometimes it's through early intervention. Sometimes it's later in their child's school experience. But when they're trying to make meaning of these situations, I think the CPAC has been a place where parents have been able to go and have very honest, genuine conversation and questions about, and be able to share kind of their deepest kind of questions that they're struggling with around, what does this mean? What does this mean for my child?
Right.
What does this mean for their development? What does this mean for their future? As they're trying to kind of grapple with the meaning of what might be a diagnosis, or might be something that, they and the school are working to figure out, and to figure out how to make school more accessible. I think the CPAC has been a place that has become kind of a safe space where kind of trusted allies are that show really remarkable empathy and care, and just sharing and guiding parents. So we're eternally grateful for the work that you do, right? And we think often those conversations are like some of the best things that happen in the district, that really are done beneath the radar. And so we appreciate that, but it's not missed on us, because we wouldn't be as successful as we are. And we appreciate, and I'll say this, I appreciate that you're tough, right? And you're hard on us, because you give us the unvarnished truth about, or the unvarnished perspective around, this is really what needs to change to improve outcomes for kids.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes that's hard for schools to hear, hard for administrators to hear, hard for teachers to hear, but it's often the feedback that we need to think more broadly about how to make school more accessible for students. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to have that voice for the families that we work with. And I think it's important too that we're modeling the collaboration between the district and parents and families. So many times, if parents don't have somebody to talk to, their frustration builds. And then it can easily become an adversarial relationship when nobody goes into education except to want to help children learn.
Right.
And sometimes, if families get frustrated, that can get lost a bit. So we try to model that too, and raise our concerns in a way that's productive and problems that can be solved together, collaboratively. And also, I think it's super important that we point out the successes, like those everyday small miracles that happen in our classrooms every day, in our schools every day. And it's been incredible to have the superhero program, because I know, I've been in this district for, since 2006, like I said. So we've had just incredible teachers. But when I read some of those stories of our staff and the amazing people that they are, it's just really amazing to hear what a difference they make in our kids' life. So you need to hear that too, along with the constructive kind of feedback. I think it's important to have the positive feedback too.
Thank you.
Thank
Much
you.
appreciated.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing
Please.
too? If for those who tune in every week for the past few years, you might remember that 2 years ago, you and Chrissy came on. My daughter had just been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and I was feeling, I'm going to get emotional again. I cried 2 years ago. I'm not going to do it again. I was feeling very alone, and I started crying, and I'm doing it again. And Chrissy and Anne reached out to me that night, and ever since then, I've felt this connection with CPAC, and it's very isolating, and to feel like you're alone in the district, which does happen. As much as we don't want to think that it does happen. It was so powerful, and I just want to thank you, because it's so hard, and if you're not a parent who has children that are that have disabilities, you don't understand until you're actually in it, and it's so hard. And so I just want to thank you again for all these years of working with me, and I've been honored to be the liaison for the past 2 years. So
We appreciate all you do for
yeah,
us.
thank you. Sorry, I got emotional.
Yeah.
You know I always do.
Thank you.
So I would just, just thank you for what you do. I think CPAC is sort of I don't want to say reduces friction, but there's a loneliness component to it, and you help people just bring them into the fold, and you do it so graciously, like without effort. It's kind of amazing to see. And whenever I hear somebody asking about like whatever struggle they might have with their student, CPAC would be the first place I point them. And I don't know whether it's the right way to say it, but I tend to say if your student needs anything extra outside of the classroom to access their education, then that's when you need to have a conversation with CPAC, because you might think that it's always somebody else. It's always, but that's sort of the lonely component of it.
Right.
So you need to realize, you need to reach out, speak to those people, like speak to CPAC, where you can make connections with people that are sort of having that same struggle with whatever that extra piece of that education might be, whatever your student might need, whatever your child might need. And I think CPAC should be spoken about not just in sort of through families that access those mechanisms, but also their friends and their neighbors, because the more people that know it, it does take the whole community. And so thank you for being willing to put yourself forward. You already mentioned Parent University. I love the partnerships. Every single program that I see CPAC attached to is always a quality one. You bring a resource from outside the district that maybe we're not looking at to educate parents in district. It's just amazing. And I feel like you and Chrissy have been on the CPAC for like 40 years. I know you've only said it's since 2006, but it just feels like it's your machine. And I would just wish that sort of more parents would become involved with CPAC, because I think you all could use an extra lift and an extra sort of pair of ears.
We definitely
and another
could.
seat at the
We
table.
definitely could. And my youngest is a freshman, so my time to retire from CPAC will be coming in the next 3 or 4 years. So, yeah, for sure, we're always looking for younger families. And thank you for saying that. Yeah, and not that we know everything, but we're willing to listen and we're willing to learn with families and find. I love learning. Obviously, been a teacher for a long time. And if I can find something out for a family, that's going to help other families too. So I have that knowledge going forward. So I appreciate you saying that.
That's fantastic. You get top notch. You guys are fantastic.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
sharing
so
your
much.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Guys made me cry again.
So before I move ahead in the agenda, Ala, if you need to go, you can.
Thank you.
students. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, and have a good Thanksgiving. Next up, we'd like to invite Jeff Weiner up to talk, give a little bit of an update on technology and to talk about the work that he and his team have been doing in the district.
All right. Thank you for the invitation to come in. For those who haven't met me before, I'm Jeff Weiner. I'm the Director of Technology for the district. I'm just going to do a short presentation here of a technology update, and then if anybody has any questions afterwards, happy to.
Slides are on both screens, and the clicker's right there.
Got it. Thank you. And I have some here too. So I'll just start off with a quick current technology landscape. We've got 5 staff members. We're supporting student Chromebooks at 1-to-1 in grades K through 8. High school continues to be BYOD, but we are currently loaning out 230 devices to students that at the high school level as well that we support. Every staff member now, teacher and paraprofessional, currently have modern laptops, so we're happy about that. We're supporting 37 unique applications through Clever, our application portal online, not including Google and Microsoft applications or products. Every classroom has a current modern laser projector except for the high school right now, which is obviously in the plan for the new school. But we are ready and to support all those projectors at the high school right through that to make sure that they don't have any downtime at all. We've partnered with our facilities team recently to upgrade the new high-resolution security cameras at all schools to help prevent and investigate security incidents. In the 75 days since the start of school, we closed 1,048 tech tickets in the tech office, which was good. It's a lot. We are now providing monthly technology newsletters out to staff so we can get information out. We try to kind of give everybody the information that everybody's asking for with our newest help desk ad, which I'll talk about in a minute. It's really given us time to find out what the biggest challenges are and actually be able to push those out to people without them having to call us first. More proactive than reactive, which is nice. And we're doing regular monthly meetings with school principals now, so we know everything that's going on. Obviously, they can do that more often if they want to, but they're knowing that they have busy schedules. We scheduled that, so there's no miss on that. So that's kind of what we're doing now. What's new this year? We've got a full-time help desk this year. We had piloted a half-time help desk last year. It was very successful for us, so the full-time help desk really allows people to get in touch with us easier. I'll talk about that in a second. Discovering appropriate ways to deal with artificial intelligence, which is just growing at crazy rates. We launched our new WPS website in the fall, which has been successful from what we've heard, at least. I talked about the high-definition security cameras for improved visibility in the schools, and I've got a cybersecurity update here, too, that I'll talk about in a minute. So I'll talk about the help desk first. WPS Help Desk is now open Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 3:30. Captures as much of the school day as possible, where it used to be open until noon, and then we obviously captured things through tickets and things like that. But Elliot Duff is our new staff member on the help desk. He's available by email, by phone, by texting for walk-ins at the high school if people happen to be in the area. That has allowed us to restructure a little bit too and provide cross-training opportunities as well, which is nice. We haven't had time or opportunities to do that before just with the staff we had. So the full-time help desk has really been a positive change for us. Artificial intelligence. The use of AI tools is growing really fast. Google Gemini, Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT, they're everywhere. Everything now has AI built into it. And there's that request constantly to block it and block it and block it and block it, but you can't block it. It's out there and it's not going anywhere. It's in almost every tool now. And so we're trying to teach acceptable use instead of blocking. I think you guys had a presentation on AI not so long ago. And it's now defined in the student handbooks. It's using artificial intelligence as long as you have the express consent of the teacher and there are ways to use it appropriately. It's not something you're going to stop. Blocking it in the schools doesn't help people at home either. So if you're blocking things at school, they don't know how to use it when they're not here. And obviously, we don't want test taking in dishonest ways. And we stop that a lot in ways by using our kiosk modes in our Chromebooks, but that's not always available either. So appropriate uses, teaching appropriate use is the best way to go. All right. Our new website was officially launched in August 2024. It kind of gives us an enhanced navigation to simplify the visitor experience. We now have staff assigned at each school to ensure that all the information is as up to date as possible. We reutilized our building-based support people that used to help with tech support issues in schools in some cases, and the help desk allowed us to do that as well. And some of those people are now supporting the websites at some of the schools. So we're hoping we have the most up-to-date information, improved accessibility features, because that includes Google Translation through the site. And we have a staff-only site that requires a login for more like online forms and digital tools to kind of get rid of some of the paper that we were using before. And so if you haven't been to the site or don't know where it is, it's at www.wpsk12.org. Quick cybersecurity update. We're 1 year into our cybersecurity program now. We've created new data management, security awareness, and incident response plans. We're currently in the process of initiating two-factor authentication for all staff. We're really finding out that if a password gets kind of stolen, that they can get in anybody's account. But if you have two-factor authentication, it makes that a lot more difficult. So we're starting to push that out currently. We're providing security awareness training for individuals that access sensitive data. We just recently did a simulated phishing campaign where we sent out a bunch of phishing emails to administrators, to central office, to principals, assistant principals, directors. Not a single person clicked through, which was great.
Did you warn them ahead of time?
No. We start in basic, and then eventually we'll go out with more complicated ones.
I love that you crack up about this.
No, we didn't tell anybody ahead of time. And so the training that we provided, hopefully that that was helpful in having that be successful. We've got CrowdStrike Next Gen antivirus installed on those devices, and we're in the process of implementing CyberMax and Managed Detect Response System. We were last year when we first pushed this out, we were trying to handle all of our threats, whether they were real threats or things that we had to deal with, things that we don't have to deal with. And there was just so many of them, so much to look at, so much to figure out. You never knew what was a real threat and what was not really anything we had to deal with. This system actually looks at that. It detects all your threats. It tells you what's a real threat that you need to deal with. Instead of having to deal with 1,000 threats, you have to deal with 4 or 3, 4 or 5. And those are a lot easier for us to handle with the staff that we have. We're continuing to work on compliance and more documentation and risk awareness and really just getting the word out there to staff. Here's what to look for. Here's what to do and what not to do. Those kind of things. And we do get a lot of questions from teachers and from staff. Hey, I got this. What does that look like? And probably 1 out of 20 is a legitimate email that they can click through. So they've been really good about that too, about asking questions. Just understanding the common security risks for schools in general, like incident readiness and response management. We're prepared for potential security incidents. We've established an incident response plan and teams for that in the tech department. We've conducted security testing and vulnerability assessments, and we've worked on those over the last year. For data protection, we've ensured the protection of sensitive data. We continue to have those conversations on securing systems and third-party vendors as well, just checking in on third-party vendors to see how they handle their data. And we've started to implement encryption, access controls, and data masking techniques on laptops that use sensitive data. So awareness is the key. Ensuring all school staff members are aware of risks to make informed decisions. That's something we do a lot in our newsletters. In every newsletter, I try to include something cybersecurity related, so people can really think about it. Taking proactive measures, just having robust security protocols and training to mitigate threats. And then obviously everybody's important. If we have a team-oriented approach to protect the organization, then we're probably going to be more successful. And that is all I have in my presentation.
Any questions? Pete?
I have a few random questions.
Yeah.
So I've seen the new cameras throughout the schools as we're doing our tours. It's definitely impressive compared to the old cameras. My question is, the Galvin, I heard second or third hand that they were having like Wi-Fi slowdowns, and people were saying it's because of the cameras. Is that true? And if so, have we been able to make any progress to improve that? Or?
So that was one of the things we did look at, was to see if it was camera related. As a matter of fact, just last Friday, I had a meeting, and the town worked with the town on it, and we found that cameras were not slowing down the Wi-Fi. There was a DNS issue.
Okay.
So it looks like as of this week so far, it's been better.
Okay.
We did make changes on Friday, and it looks like it's better this week. We'll find out tomorrow, because it seemed to be a day 3 and a day 6 problem.
Okay.
So, yeah.
The next question I have is a little bit about Power School. Yeah, I got to see it two different ways as the term closed. I got to see it at the high school and at the middle school. And at the high school, they were able to keep it open the whole time. At the middle school, the door got shut down, and then you can't even see schedules during that period. Is it like a learning that we have from the high school that we can transition to the middle school, or what caused that to be a little different, that it had to be completely turned off for access?
I think that's a choice at the school level. I don't know if you can help me with that one. I think that's a choice at the school level, that they, while they're working on it, they don't want that public.
Yeah, I think at the middle school, I think that something was changed inadvertently. And I think it impacted access for some number of days. And so that's what I believe happened.
Okay.
And that's what's different between middle and high.
Yeah, I mean, if there's some way to keep it open, because the problem is it turns off accessing student
To
schedule
everything,
stuff too.
right? Yeah,
So
you can't log in at
we
all.
want- Yeah, so I mean, it
Yeah.
turns off a lot of stuff for like a couple week period. So I
Right,
mean,
and that's the first 2 weeks of quarter too.
Yeah.
So if you're like checking what
Yeah.
your kids are missing,
Yeah, like I was-
you're not seeing anything now until I just saw it this week, I think,
Yeah.
right, or last week. Yeah,
and,
this week.
and then my other random question, this may be a Kara one, are we 100% staffed now across all the schools on the website? Or we still have open stipends or positions to close?
I believe there are still some, I don't wanna say we're fully staffed. We might still have some openings. I would have to cross-check
We can
the principals.
cross-check that, Pete, and get back to you in the next meeting.
Okay.
Pretty sure we still might
Absolutely.
have some
We can kind of give an
parapositions
HR
An
and
Amy
what.
list.
The Leamy report?
The
Pardon?
Lehman report.
Lehman
Yeah,
report.
no, it was more just, I know
Yes.
that there were some positions that weren't,
open. Oh, that weren't cleaned up?
yeah,
Yeah.
in order to like make website
Yeah.
changes, so I didn't know if we were truly fully staffed or we still had some openings or things to close out there. Okay.
I think that there's a number to close out.
Okay.
Right, so one of the things we do is we get everything up, but after a position is sometimes hired, I think when we gotta go back through and pull those down. And so just in updating that, and that's kind of an HR function. And so at central office, we have a number of different people that kind of handle different tasks. So that's something that we can take a look at, but we can also give you an update in terms of open positions in the next meeting.
Great, thanks.
Melissa?
So first thing, tomorrow's gonna be a terrible day to test because it's Gobbler games. So
Figured, yeah,
look
yeah.
at it next week.
But we'll get everybody on at the same time. We'll see what happens.
True enough. And my other question was about AI.
Yes.
Have you seen, like, do you track usage for ChatGPT or any of the other?
We don't have a way to do that right now.
Okay.
It would be nice. I'd love to see that. Like
Yeah,
who's
me too.
using what. That would be, yeah. And we don't have any way to track like specific applications and who's using it
Okay.
how often.
Is
Yeah.
there the learning about AI? Is that happening from the IT department? Is it happening in the curriculum departments? Is it happening like who's teaching acceptable use behaviors? Is it just individual teachers doing their best, or is there
We did present on that through the curriculum department. Jason Pavian, Aaron Manzi, and Margaret Messier, 3 of our curriculum coordinators, did a summer project to create a resource for teachers on acceptable use for AI, and just trying to, again, just educate where we can. Ran some PD on that, bringing it up in the department meetings, just trying to give some tips, but
Is that acceptable use for teachers using AI, or is
Well,
that acceptable use
I shouldn't
for
say
students?
acceptable use. It was more about how to navigate AI as a teacher. So they're giving guidance on the teacher end of things,
Okay.
but the student end of things, yeah, I think is probably
That's in the handbook now, yeah.
in the handbook, teacher to teacher,
Yeah.
talking it through.
But there's no organized, like,
My household experience has been a lot of that comes from library media. So whether that's like Diana Ho or like at the high school level, or whether that's like, I forget the library media specialist at the Galvin, but I know of them.
Katie
Yeah.
Williams.
Williams.
And even down in elementary. So when my kids come home, like they're more apt to say like, is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? I'm told this is not so great, and maybe I can use a little bit of this, and can I ask Alexa why? And I'm generally impressed that they asked me those questions. And I know that it's coming from their library media specialist. So I'm thinking that it's hand in hand with classroom educators, sort of that like how to be a good digital citizen.
Digital literacy is taught through our library media specialists.
That's where I think it generally comes from.
I'd say a lot of
so far.
conversations happen in different areas too, like between different people, and different people have different opinions too. It's not always like, people don't always agree on how to use it or if you should use it. And so I get pulled into those conversations all the time too, which is, I mean, to me, it's educational for me because I want to hear what people think, and then I'm also trying to take classes of my own and learn more about it because it happens faster than I can learn it.
So I think to go back to you, one of the slides that you had up, so AI is embedded in search now, right? And because it's so ubiquitous, I think we think about attribution and chat GPT and students cheating. I think that's a space that we immediately jump to when it's not quite that simple, right? And so, when AI exists in search and just in Google searches, right? When we get a kind of a modified response, so you can get more information or expanded information or modified information, and you can kind of guide it because it's now become interactive, right? And you don't even have to type. You can just use voice to text, right? And just tell it what you want, and it will give you what you want. And so, so there are layers to this. Do we need to kind of dipstick and kind of, when I use that term, to think about your question, Melissa, about do we need to check in about what kids know, what we would like them to know, and kind of how we kind of bridge that gap. I think that's kind of the next area of growth for us.
I mean, and so from my experience, we have a policy. It's a good policy for students. It's great. I don't know that the students know about it. Kids have been using AI for a couple of years.
Well, we added handbook language, which they're supposed to review.
We added,
But I see what you're saying, yeah.
Like we added it since the summer,
from the
since we
handbook
signed
to
this
the-
thing,
yeah.
since the kids theoretically read
Yeah.
it. But also, like, I'm interested in how teachers are using it. Like, are they using it to grade papers? Are they using it to come up with curriculum questions? Are they using it to create conversations in the classrooms? Are they using, like, where is the guidance?
And Kevin
that?
just raised his hand. He was ready to jump in on that.
I mean,
Yes.
I personally think that the AI tools that are out there for teachers are really helpful with assessment. So basically there's like a thing called Class Companion, which basically is a resource that teachers can use. And basically, so the student writes, let's say, like a short answer question or a short form essay, like the kids get instantaneous feedback. There's no way a human being, I don't care if you're a teacher just grading all night, like shooting on Google Classroom, you just couldn't do it. The AI will grade pretty accurately, like really well, like that question. And it just allows like constant revision feedback. So I mean, the bottom line is it is a ridiculously useful resource if used well. So yeah, but I think teachers are just kind of playing with it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're just kind of like, they're just finding out how to use it. And, so yeah, it's.
Yeah, we're trying to provide a teacher, like I said,
Yeah.
they worked on it this summer, and some final touches might need to be made, but trying to work on like a teacher guide, and just some of the headers are, what is it, what are benefits, what are drawbacks, guidelines to consider when using AI, guidelines to consider when using it with students, sample classroom guidance. So that's the kind of information we're trying to get out there, but yeah, just trying to keep up as fast as we can. So I wouldn't say we're totally there yet, but, and I think then you'll have range across the district. Some teachers, like Kevin said, are using it, others don't feel like they need it. It probably has a range right now.
And it just gets added to everything. It's, you use it in Photoshop, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, what are you trying to create? And I'm like, I'll create it myself. Thanks. I'm good.
Ask a couple. Are there any opportunities, and I'll apologize if I don't know this off the top of my hand, for students to sort of do any like class study with technology?
I mean, I would welcome that. I think we've tried to do that a few times through the high school,
Mhm.
to create almost like a student help desk along with the, I don't know that, I know there is a plan for that coming up with the new school, because there is like a Genius Bar in the library, and but right now we haven't, we did have it a couple, like I think before COVID, we had something we started with one of the teachers, and we had students work with us on projects that they wanted to. It has not returned yet, but I know we have had conversations with Principal McLeod for the new high school.
It's interesting as we talk about sort of intern opportunities outside of the school. It seems like, and because we do offer like teacher-assisted almost opportunities for some students in some
students
spaces.
can be TAs
Yeah.
at the high school, yeah.
I mean, the tech space is like just like written for young
yeah.
adults, and
Yeah.
they're so interested in it, and why not just like groom a couple of like white hat kids instead of black
IT
hat?
interns.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah, get the like
Mine-
nice
Yeah, they
hat.
know.
On the
We
agenda.
actually
More
did.
than us.
We actually talked about doing that with collaborating with Diana Ho at the high school as well.
Yeah.
With the kind of as part of the TA program.
It'd be nice to see it come back.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a win for a number of students.
Yeah.
When you listed off how many tickets that sort of have been addressed, do you have a breakout of that in terms of like what type of tickets? What are your high number of tickets? What sort of stands out?
I'd have to go through and see how granular the system is. I don't know that it pulls out because there's no category in the ticket. It's just a description, a title and description,
Sure.
and then who it's assigned to, kind of thing. So I don't think it breaks down that low. It's searchable. So if we wanted to see if any number of subjects, we could search that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it breaks it out. There's nowhere to like say like it's a hardware issue or a software issue or a Google issue. There's nowhere in there to do that with the current software that we use.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. I would think if you could sort of bucketize where those tickets are, you could put an eye towards, is there any way to sort of make it self-service? If there's a very commonly asked question, could you just put an FAQ up and have people sort of get that information, be able to sort of retrieve it for themselves? That'd be interesting. What do you normally put in your monthly newsletters? Like
It's
what are
so it's definitely a cybersecurity item. Any common thing that's happening if there's hardware problems that occur, and say we find out it's happening with every laptop, we'll put that in there and what to do with it if it's not just a ticket to open. Kind of the hot topics of the month, and the help desk has been really important in telling us that. It's like I got 15 calls on this, so we'll just throw that in the newsletter now. The information about the new website when it came out was in there. So kind of the current topics really is what we're using it for mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
One name struck out in your slide deck is that we use CrowdStrike for our cyber, but we know that they just went through an attack earlier this year.
They did.
And so how close are we to sort of like our vendor that provides it? Like, what is their stance on sort of waiting for, what Microsoft is going to do in terms of, how available the level of where CrowdStrike can interface with our operating systems? Like, is that something that you're sort of paying attention to, that you're, sort of asking our vendor, whoever is the software supplier?
For that one in particular, it does update itself, and so that was a challenge. We only had one machine to actually deal with, which was good because we got ahead of it before our vendor that we work with actually sent us information on how to fix it before it even affected our machines, which was great.
Good.
And so that is an automatic update, and we did reconsider, like we thought about not using it again, but with the number of people that it affected, it was remediated like quick. They sent out documents to us before we even woke up in the morning. It was, and so with support like that, I was comfortable continuing to use it. That was for me. Like I know that any software can have a glitch. Microsoft sends out bad patches, and we usually wait a week before we send those out, of course, or a couple weeks before we put those on our servers. But we're software. Google does it too. Google does automatic updates to devices as well, and so occasionally they throw something out there that breaks what's it called? Happened with one of the Grammarly. It broke Grammarly one day, and everybody was using that. And so the automatic update world is, it gets a little sketchy. But when you have thousands of devices, you can't go to every one of them and update them. It's hard to.
Yeah, no, I don't. CrowdStrike was particular, but if you say that your vendor currently sort of had that in your inbox before you sort of got up in the
Before we
morning,
even got up in the morning.
then that's okay. That's good.
Yeah, we don't work with CrowdStrike directly. We have a vendor that we work with.
No,
that,
yeah.
And they had that fixed right there.
Yep.
And a phone call on my phone at like 5 a.m.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Dr. Lance.
For school committee, could you please take an opportunity to share who's on your team and what they do?
Yeah.
And would you also take the opportunity while you're here to just talk a little bit more about the development of the website and kind of who took the lead on that?
Sure. We'll start with the team, the tech team. Donna Cushman is our data manager. Donna handles everything, all the data, all the Power School, anything that student information touches. Donna will deal with, and then some, and then more. Tom Eagling is our senior IT support specialist. Tom's got many years' experience in dealing with technical problems, and he does all the second tier, the higher tier support, and all the Apple work that we do with iPads and special education mostly. So he handles all that. Jonathan Otano is our IT support specialist. He handles most of the first tier field work. So anything that's at any of the schools, you see Jonathan probably at 5 places in a day. And then if something he can't figure out, he goes to Tom with that. That's the escalation there. And Elliot Duff is our newest staff member, who is at the help desk the whole day and handles all those phone calls, those quick "I need help right now" calls. And Elliot sits in the room with Donna and myself, so anything that he doesn't know, one of us does, so that response is it doesn't have to wait. A lot of help desks you call and they have to escalate a ticket to someone that is out in the field somewhere. With Donna and myself being around, one of us is around most of the time in the office. Then he has that opportunity to just kind of pause, yell across the room, "Somebody know how to fix this," and usually one of us will know, and if we don't, then obviously someone has to visit them for help. For the website, Diana Ho and Evan Burns really took the lead on that website. There was a lot of feedback from the community. There was a lot of feedback from the schools. There was student feedback. We still get feedback from students. I was with Diana the other day in the library at the high school, and she had a few students there, and we were talking about the translation services and how that works for families. And one of the students came over with her phone, and she's like, "Well, here's how it works on my phone." And then we brought the laptop over, and we're like, "Well, this didn't work the same on a laptop," so we tried to figure out how to make it work better on the laptop. So, I mean, they're still getting feedback from people. There was a lot of feedback right at the start on what was easy for people, how many clicks should it take to get to this space, what was up to date and what wasn't, how we store documents was all part of that conversation. And I think they did a great job, and I think they made it look better. I think they made it a lot easier to manage. And we haven't heard anything from anybody, as far as negative feedback goes, and we've just gotten feedback. Nobody's, "Oh, this is terrible," because it's always, "Hey, could you add this or can you change this?" Which is great. We're getting that kind of feedback from people from all the time, from in the school, but we don't hear anything negative from outside, which is great, which is what we wanted. Everybody be able to use the website easily. I don't know if you guys have heard anything different, but yeah.
I'm thrilled with it. I think it came out, and we've been talking about it for a while, and just to see it come together the way it did, like I said, Evan and Diana and you and your team support, I'm hearing nothing but positive things about it. I think it just looks
Great.
better, it looks cleaner, it's more organized, easier to use. But yeah.
Great.
Good. Any other questions? No? Thank you, Jeff.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a good Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thanks for everything.
So just closing out kind of updates and comments last week, just to let the community know, the school committee and a few others joined us on a kind of visit to the construction site out back to get a look at how the new school is coming, the new high school. And that was a super fun visit from my perspective. I love going out there. I feel like every time we go there, there's a new section of steel up or going up very quickly. I don't know what members of the committee thought that we're able to make it. I think in terms of it being informative and understanding where we're going.
I mean, it goes without saying, it was impressive. I mean, just seeing the progress they make, that steel that comes down from Canada twice a day or whatever, and it's like Lego pieces, they know exactly where it goes, and I mean, it's just amazing how fast the steel workers do their piece. And, Bond obviously has a long history working in town on our major projects, so definitely have a great company working on the project.
I was impressed by the orchestra pit. I know it was a hole in the ground, but just visually, we're going to have an orchestra pit. No, that's brilliant. And then the giant staircases that are going to let in a lot of natural light, I think is just going to be great for students and the atmosphere. That terrace on the backside, it's
going to be beautiful.
it's going to be beautiful. Good
Yeah.
good space to learn.
It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
And thank you. Go ahead.
I was just wondering when steel is going to be finished. When the
is-
steel construction is going to be finished.
Ah,
when it's gonna be-
So the topping off ceremony,
Yeah.
is this, we're anticipating before the holiday break in December. So everyone will have notice because that's quite a milestone. When that's when steel is completed, right? And that's when they're going to be. We learned in our visit they're going to be pouring the upper decks. I think next week,
Yeah.
which is amazing. Yeah,
And they also said the roof is going to go on in January, I believe this.
that's what we hear. Yeah. Yeah. So there was some kind of joking back and forth that we might be down ahead of the Vogue. So it's exciting talk right there. Exciting talk. So that's just wanted to include that in my remarks. Also on Wednesday last week was the first community forum where we welcomed Dr. Judy Owens, who came to talk about the science of sleep and kind of the benefits or the potential benefits of later school start times. So I will be collaborating with the Student Services Subcommittee and Eileen. We will be putting together 2 new dates to move forward to have 2 additional community forums. I think what we're thinking about right now is that one of the things that we're thinking a lot about is extracurricular activities and how that could be impacted by a later start or a proposal for a later start. And that for extracurricular activities, that would include any theater, band, chorus.
Jobs.
And we also need to look at sports and youth sports as well. So it would include Dan McGrath, would include our athletic director. So we're thinking about mapping that out, and there'll be more information that will come. But Judy, Dr. Owens was, I think, a really nice start to this conversation and really getting us information so that we can make a thoughtful recommendation to the school committee, likely in February, early March, right? So that's coming together. Also, we learned last week that Glavia Smith has kind of, through her hard work and kind of guidance, we've secured a grant from the Metco office in Boston to look at how we are creating paths to more advanced courses, both at middle and high school. So it's not a high dollar value. It's $15,000, but we're going to be able to hire a consultant and also have some people in district work with the consultant about how we might kind of improve access to higher level courses for students both at middle and high. So more information to come on that, but I'd especially like to thank Glavia Smith, Amy McLeod, as well as Meg Webb for their kind of work in just securing the grant. So more information will come there. Also to let people know, I'll let everyone know the pep rally's tomorrow. And so everyone's getting ready. We're speeding to the Thanksgiving break. This evening is the National Honor Society induction, which is being directed by Meg Delori Leahy. We're inducting 78 students this year. The guest speaker this year is Nora Scanlon, and she's a 2020 WMHS graduate and I think a recent graduate of St. Anselm's, and I think she's getting her master's degree at Boston College. So we're excited about the crossover there. And we have the Turkey Trot, which is Thanksgiving morning, which is hosted by our track and field boosters. If you're so inclined to get out there and run. You running this year, Kev?
I wasn't going to.
Not to put you on the spot. I know you're a runner.
Where do I sign up?
I know you're a runner. I just didn't know. But there's a fun walk, and so that I think promises to be kind of a nice start of Thanksgiving and gives you an opportunity to get out and get a little fresh air before eating a whole bunch. But with the exception of that, we'd just like to wish faculty, staff, students, and families a wonderful Thanksgiving. So that's it from us.
Great. A lot to be thankful for. Including that 15,000, that is not a small amount.
No,
That is
I
small.
think
That
for
is-
the work that we're doing, I think it's
Was it 15,000 or 1,500?
15,000.
15,000.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, glad you. Okay, under just a couple things under chair comments, sticking to the grant thing. I told the Woodville School that I would speak a little bit about they applied for and got a mass cultural grant for the school. So they'll have an enrichment that'll take place over 2 days in March where they're going to focus on environmental sustainability, textile recycling, and they're going to be collecting sort of textiles and craft pieces and working with a local artist to sort of create an art piece for the school. And just a great opportunity. It's a $5,000 grant that sort of made this possible, and they're super proud of themselves, and it's well deserved. So thank you to sort of all the parent volunteers that make that happen. It's great for the kids and great for the community. One thing I wanted to mention on, and I think I talked about this a little bit before. We had another incident of sort of graffiti in one of our schools, and it just shows a space that we're sort of vulnerable in this idea, sort of post-election, where you can have different ideas with people, and finding common ground can be a challenge, and that's a space that's hard for a lot of people. Something happened recently where one of our town councilors wanted to make a motion for additional flags to hang on the second flagpole at the Americal, and some of those additional flags, the Juneteenth flag and the Pride Progress flag, probably some of our students, some families in our district probably identify with those. And one thing that caught me was Mr. Vincent. Bob went ahead and formed himself a coalition of Paul Cancellieri from the Veterans Advisory Board and Jess Sudich from the Human Rights Commission. And sort of they both came and read a letter in support of Bob's motion to raise those flags as well as the Americal divisional flag. And I just found it interesting because I think not so long ago we found parties like that sort of at odds over what should be hung where and at what time, and to sort of create a coalition is not a small thing. And so I think there are examples in our community of sort of how we can bridge ideas and come together around sort of common goals of things like acceptance and tolerance. And so when those things happen, I think everybody should sort of take note and spread the word where you can. So just thank you to Mr. Vincent, Mr. Cancellieri, Ms. Sudich for making those words and sharing them with the town council. I thought it was great, and I thought it was a good example to our students. So that being said, also wish everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Whether you're cooking or going somewhere where if you're lucky enough someone's cooking for you, that won't be me. But yeah, so hope everyone has a great holiday. Number 7 would be budget items, and under that would be gifts, of which we have none, so we'll move on from that. Aside from the 15,000 that Glavia brought, which is again fantastic. Moving on to number 8, subcommittee reports. Finance and facilities, Mr. Markham.
We have not met since our last meeting, but we have our next meeting scheduled for next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow.
Great, thank you. Labor and personnel, Dr. Scadlow.
We too have not met since our last meeting. However, we do have our first session with Unit C scheduled, and that will commence on December 18th. So looking forward to that.
Great, good to hear. Student services, Ms. Collery.
We too have not met, but we will be looking at schedules after the holiday.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was a good forum.
And that, yes.
That was great, and I think well attended.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sort of, I didn't see the Zoom numbers on that for those that joined virtually, but
Not sure. But it laid the groundwork for the why
yeah,
we're looking at this, I
Yeah.
think, and the subsequent forums after this will really kind of dive into how
Brilliant.
it'll all get done.
and thank you to WCAT for helping us host that. That was huge. Policy and Communications, Mr. Davis.
We met back on Monday, the 18th, and we had a very brief meeting, but we have 2 motions for tonight for policies to lay on the table, which I'll speak to. We also have some meeting minutes from the 18th, which we could approve as well. There's a motion in the packet to approve that. We didn't do it earlier on, so we can do that as well. So on the 18th, the 2 policies that we're going to have motions today to lay on the table, one will be a staff conduct policy. It's very brief. And then the other one is an updated field trip policy and overnight field trip policy. Just to kind of recap on this one, we did speak about it earlier on. We had an existing policy, but it didn't really go into depth on some of the overnight concerns, as well as some of the backup plans for students who weren't going to attend the field trip. And so we tried to flush out some of those additional topics. In doing that, we did review the MASC model policies on these topics, and we just found that our existing policy plus the edits made more sense than trying to go with the 2 model policies that were available to us. So those are the 2 motions we have. I don't know if Mr. Fontenot wants to make those one at a time.
Sure, move that the school committee lay on the table for 2 weeks' consideration and vote at the next school committee meeting on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024, WPS policy GBEB as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you.
And I move that the school committee lay on the table for 2 weeks' consideration and vote at the next school committee meeting on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024, WPS policy 904E as presented.
And that's for field trip policy and overnight field trips.
Great.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion?
Just a quick question.
Dr. Pascal?
Pete, is there any way, because this is an update, do you have like a track changes version or anything?
So I did not, but it's right on our policy book page. So if you go right to the WPS K-12 and go to the
Sure,
existing
yeah.
policies, you'll see that in there.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Motion to approve the minutes.
No, we haven't voted yet. So those in favor of the motion on field
Oh,
trips?
right.
Unanimous. Thank you.
And then a couple things I'll mention before we get into a motion for the minutes, and I have it in front of me if you don't have it. So our next meeting, I think I mentioned, but if not, will be on December the 2nd. There are kind of 3 topics we have on the agenda. One is the continuation of the union member participation at school committee meetings discussion, and WA Chair Jess Cummings will be joining us at that meeting. We also have 2 policy book sections that Ms. Quinn has reviewed with Dr. Lyons that came from the MASC review. So hopefully those will be on the table after that meeting for our next school committee meeting to be seen by the full committee to be voted on. And then the other one is a communication topic on buses and how we can just try to stay more in touch with families when we're struggling with buses and kids are stranded at schools. And we've had a couple of incidences where our main contact at the district, is either out on vacation or out of the office, and a bus is late, and families, just trying to learn how to give them more timely communication so they're aware that their child may be delayed getting home. So those are the topics we have, and then I have the motion here from the packet for the minutes. You have it?
I do not.
Move that the school committee approve the minutes of the November 18th, 2024 School Committee Policy and Communications Subcommittee as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Melissa?
I never saw the minutes.
They're in the packet.
I didn't see them in the packet.
This is what I have open. They're right in front of the technology update.
I think there was a,
The second.
yeah, there was a hiccup between,
Okay.
there
Yeah,
must
I
have been, because I know, I'm seeing what Melissa's seeing.
Yeah, I have the packet that,
Yeah.
I have them on
I
mine.
don't have that.
I don't know. I got a special packet.
Was there were,
You
I
know?
think there were 2.
No, I have them
back.
on mine.
Oh, you do?
I think there were 2. There was one sent and then an edited.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I opened the latest one and it's in there.
Okay.
I don't think we
let's-
should vote on
yeah.
it if people haven't seen it.
Now that we're at a pause, this may be a technical question, well, it actually is. I don't actually believe we are empowered to approve the minutes. We should be accepting the minutes. The people that participated in the meeting approved the minutes.
Approve the minutes.
You know,
Yeah, it's just reading the
making their,
Yep.
making their official. So we should
It
be
should say.
accepting the
You are
minutes,
correct.
not approving.
Yep.
That being said,
Should
we
I
may
read it?
want to wait if people haven't read them.
Should I
It's in
read?
mine,
accept-
was it in yours?
Well, don't read them out loud.
No, that's
No,
okay.
no, no, should I redo the motion, is what I was saying?
Oh,
Because the motion's as approved.
yeah, that would be good.
Pete, can we pull it, can we hold off until maybe our next meeting to make sure, I want to, because now that I've been questioned as to which packet was posted.
Well, I don't think any packet was posted, it was just sent to us.
Okay.
I didn't get it.
Okay.
Let's
save that one. Okay, I'm gonna rescind my motion, and
Okay.
we'll revisit
We'll
that.
grab it next time, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I think we're getting caught up on minutes. So, we should have a consent agenda hopefully at our next meeting.
Perfect.
So, okay. Thank you. Moving on, any liaison reports?
We had our last ESC meeting, Environmental Sustainability Commission meeting, with, it was right before the town meeting.
Mhm.
So the main parts of the agenda, I was late because I had another meeting. But when I got there, we definitely discussed what we were going to deliberate with the solar panels in the middle school, the items that were going to be voted on in town meeting. So we basically talked about messaging around that. And the pumpkin collection was a success.
Great.
So yeah, that's all I got.
We didn't get a winning school yet.
I don't know.
Nobody likes competition. I don't know what that is. All right. Next year, we're going to toss the pumpkins with trebuchets. That's what I think. All right. Thank you, Ken. Future dates and agenda items. We'll have to relook at this because I know we had some things in. Melissa, what's the acronym that I never know that you had on future agenda items? It's like MSAA. No, never mind. See.
MTSS?
Yes, that one.
MTSS, yeah.
So that'll be on the
Multi-tiered
future. Okay.
Support services.
Thanks, Kara.
We
So-
talked about writing too.
Yeah.
Kevin, yeah, talked about a writing update potentially, yeah.
Yeah, it's been on there for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll double check those. But our next committee meeting will be December 10th, here at 7. And I think that's about it. Item number 10, any school committee comments? Pete?
Just wanted to pass on my appreciation to the Wakefield Educational Foundation. November is kind of like their holiday period where they hand out all the money for all the great things we can do in the district. And so I know they had more projects than they could fund fully, but I know they granted a lot of money across the district for a lot of projects. And every year we appreciate all their hard work in fundraising and contributions that make a lot of things possible that otherwise would not be able to happen in the district.
Best spelling bee in town? Dr. Scalo?
I just neglected to say during the labor update, we're kind of coming to the conclusion of our recruitment for a new school committee clerk. So if there's any interest out there in taking on that role, we're still accepting applications through December 2nd. So coming up fairly soon. So if anyone's interested in that position, please apply. Would love to see their materials and be able to move forward with that process. So December 2nd is the deadline.
Here, that's an amazing position.
It is an amazing position, yes, with a great group. That's right.
It's about the people. Yeah. Great. Anyone else? Seeing none. Response now, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, move that the school committee adjourn its meeting of Tuesday, November 26, 2024.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Markham.
I neglected to say, so for Thursday, so go Warriors.
I was
Go
wondering.
beat Melrose.
Yeah, of course.
Now I'm in favor of adjourning.
Thank you. Those in favor? Thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful turkey day. Good evening.